Assault Suit Leynos. Assault Suit Leynos was a game that was first introduced in the 90s for the Sega. In the year 2201, the expanding technologies have given man the power to live anywhere in space. Amidst the backdrop, the story starts with war between Earth and its colonies against a cyborg army returning from the farthest reaches of space. The heart of the defensive movement is the Assault Suit, a 12-foot tall armored battle machine with awesome fighting capabilities. You are Rex, or now known as Assault Suit 02, an assault wing commander and master of the Assault Suit combat. The battle begins on Ganymede, but shifts to battles in space, on Earth, and inside enemy outposts. The gameplay for Assault Suit Leynos mostly takes place on the ground, but there's also like these zero-G environments that you can fly around in, which is actually really cool. And a couple of the stages incorporate the zero-G combat as well as ground combat. Now, one thing that was really appealing in the 90s with this game was the actual story. As you can see, the guys are talking to you in Japanese with English subtitles. Depending on where you're from, I think you pick like French and German and a couple other. You can probably get Chinese or Japanese subtitles as well. But if you can actually speak Japanese, you can hear that that's what they're saying anyway. So this was a really cool aspect, but that part really incorporated a story early on in games, when at the time there wasn't a huge storyline for these types of 2D shoot 'em up scrolling games. So that was really appealing at the time for this game. And even now, I thought it was really good. At first I kind of wasn't reading it at all, but as you play into the game farther, it reveals what's going on and the story of the game. And actually there is key characters in this, your main character and what becomes your nemesis or rival throughout the game. But it was just very interesting to read and to know what's going on, because obviously playing through the game, you really don't have any idea, because you're just controlling the assault suit, running around and blowing shit up. So it's no matter when you you blow up a door and you go into a base, that really doesn't tell you anything other than that you've destroyed a base. You don't really know where or what you're doing or what's going on. And at the same time, the different missions that you play during the briefing mode, it'll actually kind of walk you through the little map of where you're gonna be. And obviously, when you see these maps, this is obviously not where you're walking through, but it's kind of cool just to see it, because it would kind of be like a briefing in the war room before you actually went into the fight. So that aspect to me was really cool. In that same briefing, they kind of talk about the mission, what you're gonna do at different phases and stages of the mission. The graphics aren't the greatest, obviously, but they're actually really cool. I mean, I thought they were pretty good. It's obviously this was a Genesis game, but I think they did a good job porting it over and enhancing the graphics a little bit for the consoles that we have today. So when you first enter a mission, you'll be prompted to pick your loadout. At first I thought there was going to be upgrades and kind of cool stuff, but there's no upgrades. They're unlocks is what they are. So throughout the game, when you complete a mission, you'll be ranked and given points, which will unlock more weapons and armor and different power-ups that you can use throughout the game. Now, a lot of the grenade launchers and rocket launchers and shotguns, they only have limited ammo, but the LG gun, which is basically your machine gun, you can get that, but then completing another mission and getting an S rank, you can actually get an upgraded LG gun that does more damage. You can see on the screen here that there's a grenade launcher, the GL, and then there's the MGL, and the MGL is kind of the souped up version of the grenade launcher and does noticeably more damage in the game. And I've actually been playing through the game a couple times and have unlocked like a bunch of really crazy like missile launchers and other grenade launchers and like an upgraded shotgun and like these cool phasers that like shoot through stuff. So there's actually some really cool weapons in the game. Now the only thing I really didn't like is that when you unlock them in one game, when you complete the story mode, everything basically resets, and when you run the arcade mode again, you have to unlock them all. So getting an S rank in each mission is really important if you want to have access to the different power-ups later in the game, which will definitely help you out when you come up to some of the later bosses. No spoilers, there is just one like crazy grenade launcher called the P mod, and if you get it, man, it is so sick and it does so much damage. It completely ruins bosses. As well as getting those different unlocks for completing missions and getting a different rank. You get like all these points throughout the game when you play, and when you back out and go into the option menu, you have like a rank outside that you can see in the top right corner. Right now I'm rank 19, and you get like all these weird unlocks, and at first I had no idea like where to find them or like what it was saying like in the customization menu. But basically what you have to do, and you have to do this for another aspect, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but you have to go into the game options, and then you can unlock these different options through the arcade mode to play with while you're playing the regular game. So as you can see on the screen, there was like a couple different bonuses. One of the ones that I really liked that I thought was really cool is they give you a laser sight for your machine gun, or basically your primary weapon, which really helps out like throughout the game. Just with like aiming and everything, because your first playthrough, like you won't have any aiming other than just to follow the guns and, you know, follow like the last bullet that you fired. So like this was really cool. And you can see too, I think I had like the sunglasses unlocked, which is like, you know, like it's a cool little feature. But it's nice, you know, they're cool options, and they'll change the play of the game, and it's not like they cost you anything. It's like they're rewarding you for playing the game and beating the game and doing well at the game, which is something that more games now a day should do. The other thing I wanted to talk about is there's two different play styles, or two different ways to play the story. So you can play in the arcade mode, which is like a mode that's been created, I feel like, for the PS4, and it's actually a lot easier, and just kind of like, it's not dumbed down, I guess, because the game really doesn't take that much thought, but you know, it's like just an easier version of the game. Like the other assault suits that you fight, like they won't fire as much, and they'll come like one or two at a time. Like when you're playing the classic mode, it's like they're just waves and waves of assault suits, and it's like sometimes you're just moving like what feels like inches and not going anywhere. And if you really F up the rhythm that you're going at with like using your shield and your machine gun and reloading and switching to shotgun and doing all that stuff at the right time, like you can get overwhelmed like very easily. And I thought it was really cool because, so like when I played classic mode, I'm like, man, like this is really hard. And then I was thinking like, this is what games were like in the 90s, you know? Like these games weren't easy at all, because even like what's the one game I remember playing for the Super Nintendo? It was like Ghosts and Goblins or Ghosts and Ghouls or something, and it was like so stupid hard when I was a little kid, and I never ended up beating it. Like I would always get to like a raft mission, and like I would end up dying, but that's, you know, another story for another time. But it's like, this is how games used to be, is, you know, they used to be really challenging, and it wasn't like anybody could just sit there and just play it through on their first playthrough. Like you really needed to spend time learning how to play the game, and what tactics you need to use and when, and how the game was meant to be played, and they weren't really meant for everyone to be good at. And that was one of the things I wanted to point out, is like now they make games pretty much for everyone, which is good, but it's like Man, this is what games were like back in the day for people who don't know or who were born into like the Call of Duty world. Okay, so you've seen some of the gameplay, you've heard what I have to say. Now, what do I actually think of this game as a whole after beating the story, after listening to the story? I think you should definitely go get it if you've seen anything that you found interesting. Like, this game will be really hard if you're looking for something difficult. It's definitely not easy by any means. But if you saw something you liked or you heard something that you liked, I definitely suggest picking up this game if you're looking for a game to play. Is it like one of the must plays of the year? No. But if you're a really big fan of the Nintendo, Sega, Super NES games, like games that were on that difficulty level, games from that era, like that's what this is. In my opinion, it's really great. When I was talking about the storyline before, I really enjoyed it, and without giving away any spoilers, there's definitely a couple really big plot twists at different points in this game that kind of make you stop and you're like, wow, like, this is kind of messed up. So the story is actually really good, and the gameplay was fun. Like, I did die a lot throughout it, and I probably am like, close to 20 hours deep, as the game was released Tuesday of this week, and it's now Sunday when I'm doing my release. I've definitely had a lot of time to play it to give you guys a great idea on what it is, and I definitely think if you saw something you liked, heard something you liked, or you're a big fan of these types of games, I think it's really good. There's a lot of depth, and I think you should go get it. And that will conclude my review of Assault Suit Leynos. Thanks. Peace out, guys.